Most of us have at least a vague awareness that our thinking or our mindset has an impact on our psychological well-being. Well, the other day I was asked, how can a particular cognitive distortion like all or nothing thinking have such a global impact on a person? Okay, that's my psychologist summarization of the question, but you get what I mean. So today I'm going to answer that question. And if it's at all helpful to you, I'll focus on other cognitive distortions in the future so that you can be more aware of them in your lives and not allow negative thinking to weigh you down. Welcome back to Savvy Psychologist. I'm your host, Dr. Monica Johnson. Every week on this show, I'll help you face life challenges with evidence-based approaches, a sympathetic ear, and zero judgment. All or nothing thinking, also known as black and white thinking or dichotomous thinking, is a cognitive distortion where individuals see situations, experiences, or outcomes in extreme binary terms. So it's either all good or all bad with no middle ground. This kind of thinking can have several negative impacts on a person's mental health and behavior. Here are some of the key negative consequences. The first consequence I'm going to mention is increased anxiety and stress. All or nothing thinking often sets unrealistic standards, leading to chronic anxiety and stress when these standards are not met. For example, believing that if I don't do this perfectly, I'm a failure creates immense pressure to always perform flawlessly, which is both unrealistic and stressful. Speaking of perfectionism, this type of thinking is closely related to perfectionism, where anything less than perfect is considered a complete failure. Perfectionism can lead to procrastination out of fear of not meeting the high standard, burnout, and even avoidance of tasks altogether, as the pressure to achieve perfection becomes overwhelming. The third thing I want to mention is low self-esteem. So people who engage in all or nothing thinking often see themselves as less than if they fall short of their expectations or if things don't go their way. An example of this can be a person thinking something like, if he doesn't want to be with me, I'm worthless. Listen, I have the journal entries to prove that this is a false thought. Engaging in these mind games where we bet our entire self-worth on random events, superstitions, or cuties will only lead to madness. The fourth thing I want to mention is relationship difficulties. In relationships, all or nothing thinking can manifest as seeing a partner as either completely good or entirely bad based on specific actions or events. This lack of nuance can lead to conflict, dissatisfaction, and ultimately relationship breakdowns. For example, thinking, you never do anything nice for me, can cause undue strain on relationships. In reality, they may do chores around the house, make food for you when you're ill, and celebrate you when you get a huge win in your life. Those are all nice things, but perhaps they're not the same nice things you have in your mind, which is different than they never do nice things for you. The fifth consequence I'm going to mention is depression. All or nothing thinking is a common cognitive distortion in depression. It can lead to feelings of hopelessness and worthlessness because any perceived failure is seen as complete and unchangeable. For instance, a person might think, I didn't get the job, I'll never be successful, leading to a downward spiral in mood and motivation. The sixth consequence is poor decision-making. This type of thinking can lead to impulsive or rash decisions because it eliminates the ability to see or consider middle ground options. For instance, thinking, if I can't do it perfectly, I won't do it at all, can result in missing out on opportunities for growth, learning, or success. Number 7 is decreased resilience. If a person views a setback as a total failure, they may be less likely to try again or persevere, reducing their overall resilience. For example, after failing an exam, a student might think, I'll never pass this course, leading them to give up entirely rather than seek ways to improve. Number 8 is limited personal growth. All or nothing thinking stifles personal growth because it discourages risk taking and experimentation. If someone believes they must either excel or not try at all, they miss out on learning opportunities that come from mistakes and partial successes. The 9th thing I'm going to mention is a negative impact on your physical health. This cognitive distortion can also affect physical health, particularly in areas like diet and exercise. For example, someone might think, I ate a slice of pizza for lunch, so I might as well eat whatever I want for the rest of the day, week, or month, leading to cycles of extreme dieting and binge eating, which can harm physical health. The 10th thing I'm going to mention is isolation. All or nothing thinking can lead to social isolation. If a person believes they must be perfect to be liked or accepted, they may withdraw from social situations out of fear of not measuring up, leading to loneliness and further emotional distress. I run into countless people who refuse to date, make friends, or generally socialize until they lose weight, clear up their acne, get braces, or whatever hang up they choose to fixate on at that time. There's space for all of us to belong. Now, here's a few tips on how to address all or nothing thinking. Cognitive restructuring. So you want to challenge and replace black and white thoughts with more balanced perspectives. For example, I didn't get everything done today, but I accomplished a lot, and that's okay. This type of practice can start to shape your thoughts into more adaptive thinking, change your emotional responses to things, and lead to outcomes that are more in line with your values. The next thing I'll mention is set realistic expectations. Acknowledge that perfection is unattainable and that partial success is still valuable. Practice viewing people and yourself for who they actually are instead of who you think they should be, and set your expectations for them based on reality and not on your judgments. It's important to embrace flexibility. So cultivate a flexible mindset, recognizing that multiple outcomes can be acceptable and that progress is more important than perfection. By addressing and modifying all or nothing thinking, you can improve your mental health, enhance your relationships, and increase your overall well-being. What's a cognitive distortion that trips you up in life? Let me know. You can contact me via Instagram at KindMindPsych or via email at psychologist@quickanddirtytips.com. The Savvy Psychologist is a Quick and Dirty Tips podcast. It's audio engineered by Steve Rickyberg with script editing by Brandon Getchis. Our podcast and advertising operations specialist is Morgan Christensen. Our digital operations specialist is Holly Hutchings. And our marketing and publicity associate is Davina Tomlin. Follow Savvy Psychologist on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. That's all for this episode of Savvy Psychologist. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next week.